Okay. All right. So what's up, everyone? So this video is a little bit more focused on just a general update of what's going on with the world in VR chat, progress that I made this week, and my thoughts on what I should be doing in the coming weeks. Even though I was supposed to be taking it easy in terms of the number of events and stuff like that I would be doing this week, I still kind of ended up getting kind of roped in and partying a lot and doing a lot of events anyway, which is interesting and everything like that. I want to try my hand at a little bit of getting a bit more traction in terms of social media, and I think I might actually be trying to see if I can focus a little bit on more energy on my minds.com account. It's pretty well done. Its UX isn't too bad, and it seems like it's fairly cheap to promote or boost my content. So for anyone who's watching this from minds.com, keep in mind that, like, being in an alt tech situation, you're probably bombarded with a bunch of like crypto and news posts and stuff like that, whereas my focus is a little bit different. The kind of content that I do is more about being a virtual reality nightclub owner and a growing virtual reality scene. And I think it to be the future of virtual reality, because virtual reality, while it's really cool and visually interesting to be in these 3D environments for your single player or multiplayer games, VR social is where I think the future of virtual reality really is, because all of the features like full body, you know what I mean, being able to express yourself properly, the ability to to have facial tracking and things of that nature really does lend itself more towards doing a sort of Ready Player One social environment, which I think that, if you're not familiar with the movie Ready Player One, basically it's metaverse game development. I think it's the future of social media, if that makes sense. Um, it's a lot to swallow. There's a lot going on regarding this kind of a thing. So the cool thing about it is that I feel like we're so early right now that it's still not even close to being mainstream. It's kind of like the old days of getting into Facebook before people even really knew what Facebook was. I remember what those days were like, and it was actually pretty interesting. I don't know necessarily whether or not if VR social is going to get, is going to have the same trajectory of the standard text-based social media platforms that we've seen in the past, which mostly just ended up being spying tools for the government, or corporations, or whatever. In this particular case, I actually view that virtual reality is going to encourage kind of a behavior, or a different type of behavior, where people are a little bit more free to express themselves, and due to the fact that our social circles are defined by the people who can actually physically, in virtual reality, when I say physically, I mean virtually, be present around us, rather than a bunch of posts that are being pushed in our faces. And it's a little bit harder to shove ads on my eyeballs than it is to have little banners on the sides. So it's a bit of a different situation entirely. It's a different beast, and anyone who tries to treat the virtual landscape in the same way that you treat something like a Facebook or a Twitter or something along those lines, you're gonna get wrecked, essentially, because you're just not going to fit. It's like fitting a square peg into a round hole, right? And it also, by definition, due to the fact that that we're encouraged to create these different unique avatars, we're encouraged to create our own identities, we're encouraged to express ourselves in a more formal, personal manner, and that we are actually much more likely to feel like we're actually physically talking to people. It's kind of like we're going back in some respects to before the internet, but we're still hyper social in a highly socialized environment, a highly social environment. Um, it's definitely the future in a lot of respects. So text-based social media is really going the way of the dinosaur in terms of being, the tippy top of how people are going to socialize in the future. I think once this technology continues to get better and more people realize that it literally just feels like you're actually out at the club, that you're actually seeing these live shows with these crazy events and everything like that. So, with that said, anyway, um, I do want to try. I do want to try my hardest to start trying to get more traction also as well on my Odyssey channel where I'm posting these videos in general. So let's see what else. This the main thing that I'm focused on in terms of VR chat right now, in terms of the development that I'm currently doing at the moment, is um, I want to try and get the rebuilding of this world to incorporate more, a Ready Player One style sort of metaverse mindset. In other words, there are a lot of locations and points of interest on larger world spaces that are combined where the clubs and the different, meaningful locations are part of a landscape. And then I can actually rent out apartments and I can rent out spaces and I can have more, a lot, choose people to build clout, to be able to have more meaning. So, like, building real estate, essentially virtual real estate, which I know a lot of people have already said this, but this isn't the first time this sort of a cycle has happened before. A lot of people remember Second Life, and Second Life was a game that was very similar in a lot of ways. It was also very, it was way ahead of what virtual reality is at right now. But there's a lot of straight similarities between Second Life and virtual the metaverse. And Second Life was probably one of the first metaverses that was really popularized, I think, in a lot of respects, other than mod communities for most popular video games. So, due to the fact that virtual reality is so social and that it replaces social media, combined with the fact that we have a metaverse brewing under the surface at this point in time, that's what I think is actually the sort of key sort of singularity event, is when the metaverse actually begins to grow in a way that encourages everybody to begin pulling things in. I call it the black hole effect, or maybe I should give it a better name, because that sounds a little strange and probably overlaps with or something else. But the idea is that due to the fact that a metaverse has proprietary tools for the development of the space, that means that it's easier for people to take ideas from outside of the metaverse and build them with those proprietary tools inside of the metaverse, right? And that means that it's easier to enter the metaverse than it will be to pull out, because the proprietary tools don't necessarily work outside of the metaverse. So if somebody builds things that are cool and interesting and then drags them into the metaverse, a specific metaverse of any kind, what you end up with is everything comes in and very little actually gets back out again, or at least to a certain extent. So metaverses are sort of like a continuously growing ball of rubber bands. You know what I mean? Everything just kind of keeps coming in, and you'll see like, oh, there's Gundam and Ninja Turtles and Battletoads and you know, and that sort of thing where you see anime girls, and then there's like new things that are developed because people combine those ideas in new ways, and then you start to see things that didn't exist outside of the metaverse, that are only, you know, that are unique to the metaverse. So basically, I want to be a big part of this. That's my goal with this. I want to be a big part of this whole thing. This whole phenomenon, I want to actually I want to contribute to it. I want to make it something, you know, or be a section of this and understand it in ways that people who are on the outside looking in simply just don't get, which is already the case now. Because if I try to explain this to people who are on the outside, man, I'm sorry, but a lot of you guys don't even understand what it's like to be in VR. Like, chances are, if you haven't been in VR in a social environment and understood it, or has spent the night hanging out and drinking with your friends or something like that, you may never get it. You may never get it. You may never understand. There are still people who think that virtual reality is just going to be some like gaming console, but the reality is that when it comes to just regular gaming, a lot of people are probably just going to want to stay on their desktops. You know, just playing, you know, it gets tiresome. Can you imagine grinding like you would in World of Warcraft? You know, in a virtual environment, actually swinging pickaxes to get your copper ore and stuff like that. That shit gets tiresome after a while. I mean, it's probably healthier than sitting on your butt the whole entire time, but I don't. I think that there's a certain point where people are going to be turned off from trying to grind and play nonstop. It's more likely that you're going to see people wanting to just sort of chill out in front of mirrors as they sort of experience what it's like to have different bodies, to experience, you know, to actually make friends and connections and conversations that they were never having before. Or, you know what I mean? So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end this video here, and I'll spread this video out a little bit more. I may even upload it onto my YouTube. I don't plan on using my YouTube because, I mean, it's not really that great of a place to be, but maybe it's a good idea that I put it out there just in case people can actually get a chance to see what's going on, what I've been doing, what I've been working on, what I've been thinking about, what I've been, you know, how things have been going. I'm fairly well known at this point in time, I think, at least within this scene, within this bubble. So it's pretty interesting. Anyway, I have a thing that I need to begin organizing very soon right now, and I'm going to be doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end this video here, and hope you enjoy.